There was a major indictment by the Supreme Court of the BCCI chief N. Srinivasan this morning. The court said that a fair investigation into match fixing in the IPL would not be possible if he remains the chief of the body. The apex court did not explicitly order his removal. However, it said that if he did not step down, a fair probe was impossible. It added that the contents of the Mukul Mudgal committee report that was submitted to it in a sealed envelope are damning. In fact, it went on to say that it was nauseating that Srinivasan remained the chief of the BCCI. It said, why is he sticking to his chair if he doesn't step down? We will pass the order. Jaskirat Singh Bawa tracked that Supreme Court hearing this morning and now joins us on the phone line. Jaskirat, give us some of our viewers an idea of what happened inside that courtroom, because the words are strong. What were the judges like when they were passing these orders?
Well, we kind of watched the anger or the mood in the Supreme Court, in the bench, get a little more serious over the half-an-hour hearing, where initially the BCCI Counsel began with arguments, including asking the Supreme Court not to reveal the contents of the sealed envelope. Now, it was at that cue that Justice Patnaik asked the lawyer for BCCI and asked her in as many words that for a change, don't be like a paid lawyer, but as an officer of the court. You read the sealed envelope and then tell us if you think Srinivasan should continue as the president pending the investigations which are going on in the IPL spot fixing, clearly implying that the Supreme Court is seized of the matter, the implication of the contents which are within the sealed envelope, and feels that Srinivasan continuing as the president is going to hamper and is detrimental and incorrect as long as the investigations are going on. 48 hours time has been given, which means basically the day after tomorrow is the next date of hearing. It remains to be seen what decision Srinivasan takes on that line, on that front, whether he remains defiant or whether he actually complies. And after that, we will have further arguments in this case, because it's not just Srinivasan who is under the scan over here. We have Gurunath Mayappan, we have the two teams also. So what will be the fate of the investigation as far as Supreme Court is concerned remains to be seen on that date.
Jaskirat, stay with us. I want to come back to you with another question because Nalini Chidambaram, who is the counsel for the petitioners in this case, had told headlines today that they would seek for suspension of both the Chennai Super Kings and the Raasthan Royals from the IPL. They said the entire scam happened because of the conflict of interest with N. Srinivasan's presence as both an IPL owner as well as the chief of the Board of Control for Cricket in India. I want to come back to Jaskirat Singh Bawa on that. Jaskirat, the petitioners in this case have been particularly vocal about N. Srinivasan's role, and now they're questioning the conflict of interest as well in his ownership of one of the IPL teams, even though he's the chief of the board.
Committee report, it is hinted at, and in response, the BCCI, while agreeing to many of the suggestions, minor suggestions given by the Mukul Mudgal committee report, disagree with major ones, and at the same time, and right at the end of the response, also said that the Mukul Mudgal committee report went beyond its scope to actually bring within its ambit N. Srinivasan's role or his position as the president of BCCI and whether or not it was actually standing in conflict. What happened today clearly implies that the Supreme Court is not convinced with BCCI stand where they are opposing the Mukul Mudgal committee report going into the whole conflict of interest issue. The petitioners, of course, have always been maintaining it right from the very beginning, even during the Bombay High Court case against which the BCCI originally came to Supreme Court. So the conflict of interest has clearly been a prima facie, it seems from the Supreme Court perspective, that there seems to be a conflict of interest, which is why they're saying that he should step aside, step down, for a free and fair investigation. Now, it's not a sure shot of final call on him not being a BCCI president, which is being taken. But at least if the investigations are on, they feel the BCCI is not equipped and should not have anything to do with the investigation, which may look as it is interfering.
All right. Jaskirat, many thanks for getting us a perspective of what happened in the courts. We'll also be joined in a couple of minutes by Shivani Gupta, our sports correspondent, who's been tracking what's been going on within the BCCI through all this. She's been speaking to all the big names and will get us a sense of where everyone stands. Shivani, if I can come across to you, you've been speaking to a number of people in cricket administration. Some of N. Srinivasan's critics have been nearly vicious in some cases in their criticism of him.
Yes, a lot of criticism has come Srinivasan's way, all this while. For 6 years now, ever since the conflict of interest issue arose, he sidestepped all of that. Then the IPL spot fixing saga broke in May last year, and there was tremendous pressure on him till the end of June to quit his position. The arguments were the same, that till this man is at the helm of affairs, can we really expect a free and fair probe? What the BCCI did at that time, what Srinivasan did at that time, was just stepped aside, even though he continued to attend ICC meetings, and appointed Jagmohan Dalmi as the interim charge. And then they appointed an internal probe, which was later quashed by the Mumbai High Court. So, all of this has already played out. This time, though, a sentiment or an observation has come from the Supreme Court itself, and there is really very little maneuvering room for both the BCCI and its president N. Srinivasan. Lots of people, Pierre, are comparing this to what happened with the Sahara chief Subrata Roy just recently. People on Twitter expressing their views that, the law is above everyone else, and one day or the other it catches up. So in the current scenario, in the current circumstances, very difficult for anyone to ignore what the Supreme Court is saying. And Supreme Court has made it quite clear today itself that the BCCI president does not take this call on his own. Then in 2 days from now, it could very well pass an order which will be binding on him to remove his post. Now, does the BCCI and the president really want to go through that situation where the order has to be passed? Maybe it will be wiser of them to just take stock of the situation right now and quit his position. As one of our correspondents said, live to fight another day. And the other important question is that what happens from here on now? What happens to the investigation that the Mudgal Panel Committee report has asked for? Clearly, the court feels it cannot go on in a free and fair manner, especially with the contents of the sealed envelope, which indicate that perhaps the contents of the sealed envelope raise further questions on Srinivasan continuing in his position as the president. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see, but very little maneuvering room for N. Srinivasan. Legally, of course, Nalini Chidambaram spoke to us and she said that they have to follow this. This is the Supreme Court's order. So I don't think any way that Srinivasan can sidestep this at this stage.
Shivani, we're going to come back to you because there are so many interesting perspectives in this story. And I want to tell viewers, you may have seen a hashtag for Twitter at the bottom of your screens. It's CleanOurCricket. Tweet with that hashtag, and we're going to take some of the best tweets up on air later in the day when we come to this and focus on this story. But just to get you an understanding and a concise understanding of what the court said, here's a special story that we put together. It's taken the apex court of the country to put the BCCI chief N. Srinivasan in his place, clearing the pitch for the strongman of Indian cricket. The court said a fair probe in the IPL scam was not possible if Srinivasan was chief, and that he should quit if a fair probe was to be conducted. Though the court stopped short of ordering his removal, it said the contents of the Mudgal committee report submitted to it in a sealed envelope are damning. It also said it was nauseating that Srinivasan had remained the BCCI chief. The court wondered why Srinivasan was sticking to his chair, saying if he did not quit, it would be forced to pass an order. The court even asked the BCCI's lawyer to look at the contents of the envelope and decide not as a lawyer, but as an officer of the court whether Srinivasan should step down.
I believe it's an observation. It's subject to the response of the BCCI, and I believe the case is listed day after tomorrow. So you will come to know on day after tomorrow what happens. I mean, usually our job was to submit a report on a factual finding and make some recommendation. We have done both.
सील्ड लिफाफा के ऊपर बात आई और उन्होंने बीसीसीआई के लॉयर को माननीय न्यायालय ने कहा कि अगर क्रिकेट को आपको साफ करना है तो श्रीनिवासन को स्टेप डाउन करना पड़ेगा. अगर श्रीनिवासन स्टेप डाउन नहीं करेंगे तो हम वर्डिक्ट पास करेंगे, जो भी वर्डिक्ट होगा.
The BCCI chief is sticking to his guns and seems in no mood to abdicate, even though the board has taken notice of the court's objections.
As I said, that if it's the Supreme Court, we'll have to be all bound by what Supreme Court says. There will be no choice. It cannot be ignored, but so far I don't think there is any announcement because I have not had any intimation.
It's a great pronouncement by the learned judges. They are absolutely right. and I feel vindicated. I think it's a wonderful, really a great judgment. It's a great thing for the Indian cricket.
It's now up to the BCCI to fall in line and obey what the Supreme Court has said. For now, the court has set Friday as the date for the Indian cricket body to respond.
World T20 is going on, Team India is winning, IPL is about to start next month, and in the midst of all this comes this big blow to the BCCI. N. Srinivasan has been saving his wicket for a long time, but this time around it might just be very difficult for him to get a favourable decision from the third umpire. From New Delhi with camera person Probir Biswas, Atit Sharma for Headlines Today.
Now, the Supreme Court's pronouncements this morning have enough punch in them to reboot the entire scene of cricket administration in India. The immediate impact will be that the BCCI chief will have to step down, at least for the period of the investigation. It may also hurt his chances to take over as the ICC chief from June. If the petitioners are successful in their next step, Srinivasan's team, the Chennai Super Kings, could even be suspended from the IPL. The order has also certainly strengthened the hands of Srinivasan's opponents within the BCCI. Remember, his re-election comes up in September, and that may be in jeopardy. Some of the people who he's rubbed the wrong way over the years include the Maharashtra political veteran Sharad Pawar, who has been BCCI chief himself. Another of the names against Srinivasan is I.S. Bindra, an outspoken critic of the current chief, and Lalit Modi, the former IPL commissioner who was banned for life from cricket administration by the current board. And there's also Ajay Shirke, who is the former BCCI treasurer. The ramifications for cricket are quite substantial as well. The observations certainly dealt the credibility of the IPL, the most money-making scheme of the BCCI. The suspension of the Chennai Super Kings and Raasthan Royals, potentially, of course, suspension could happen, could send the entire IPL schedule into disarray. And what could be more worrying are the chances of a wider investigation into other match-fixing allegations within the IPL. The biggest impact, though, is what happens to Indian cricket if and when the players who've been named in the sealed report, their names are made public. Shivani Gupta is still with us in our studio. Shivani, that last point over there, really the most worrying for cricket fans, because they don't worry about what the BCCI does. Surely there's match fixing, as is alleged in this report, but it's the players who they're really attached to, and if those players are named, it could really create problems for cricket.
Yes, when this entire saga broke out, Pierre, immediately it was, compared with the 1999-2000 match-fixing saga, and it had taken a huge dent on cricket's reputation. Sure, this one is, spot-fixing, and it came in the IPL, a league that many don't take very seriously, but it's still cricket, and all of India's top cricketers are playing in the league. So when questions are raised on the league, questions are also bound to be asked of the players who are playing in the league. And what the sealed envelope contains, nobody really knows for sure. It's all speculation and conjecture at this point of time, but supposedly contains names, maybe as many as half a dozen of India capped players, could be current, could be former, and if at all the court decides to reveal those names, then it could be trouble for Indian cricket, in fact world cricket, because this is a league which is a global league. BCCI is in control really of world cricket right now. Many are saying that it should be made public once there is enough proof, because unless you name and shame, there cannot be a strict deterrent for players to involve themselves in such activities. Yeah. But the other side of it is, of course, that you cannot name these players and potentially damage the reputation of a player before we know for certain that a certain player is involved, and there have to be investigations and questions raised over them.
Again, as Shivani was saying over there needs to be a larger investigation. That investigation, as the court said, cannot happen as long as Srinivasan remains the chief. 2 days when we'll find out what the result of all this is. Shivani Gupta, many thanks for getting us those perspectives over there.